Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Unlocked. Unlocked is a Korean crime thriller that tells the story of Lee Na-mi, a tech-obsessed woman who works at her father's cafe while trying to find direction in her life. One day, she loses her phone while riding the bus, and it's obtained by a man who has ulterior motives. He tricks her into retrieving the phone with spyware installed on it, and he begins to track her every move and action done on the phone, leading him to systematically ruin her life over time. Lee Na-mi must try and solve the mystery behind what's happening to her before she finds herself in more danger than she already is. This proved to be a solid tech thriller in spite of its pacing being all over the place, and while the multiple story angles don't always work in its favor, it's backed up by an intense slow burn atmosphere and an excellent villain that makes it easy to stay drawn into its story. The main character, Lee Na-mi, is a typical directionless young adult whose life revolves around whatever she does on her phone. Ordinarily, she wouldn't be all that remarkable in any other story, and she is still kind of bland, but I actually think that this trait makes her character more appealing in this movie's case. She's a normal girl whose circumstances could have happened to anyone else who happened to ride that bus. She has friends and family who she's close with, and has career prospects that she's eager to pursue. So she has this sort of everywoman persona that adds a relatability factor to her character and makes her more likable. Now, I don't think all of her traits are fleshed out all that much, and her ordinary nature does make her a bit boring at times, but she's still able to carry the story. Her actress does a great job in communicating the devastation she experiences as her life falls apart at the hands of a complete stranger, so I was invested to see her get the justice that she deserved. To be honest though, what makes the movie as intriguing to watch as it is the villain jun-yeong. What makes him so fascinating is how unassuming he is in the role of a creepy stalker who has it out for anyone who he sets his sights on. He looks just as ordinary as Na-mi does, so the idea of any average Joe being a lowlife like him is a pretty scary thought. He backs up his average appearance with one of the more cunning minds I've seen in a thriller in recent years. Every move he makes is calculated to the letter, and he's somehow always able to stay 2 steps ahead of those who try to catch him. Some of the moves he makes come off as cliche and even illogical at times, but in general it was oddly captivating to see him operate in both chilling and charming capacities. This dynamic plays out to dramatic effect between him and Na-mi over the course of the story. The way he acts like a wolf in sheep's clothing by pretending to help her while actually taking advantage of her made the movie more nerve-wracking to watch, because the entire time I kept worrying for Na-mi. At one point I even said out loud, "It's him! He's there! He's right there!" This can be occasionally annoying because Jun-yeong doesn't exactly do the best job at covering his tracks. The story jumps the shark a couple of times in weird ways that made me wonder why he was allowed to go on for as long as he did without being nabbed for his crimes. But nonetheless, I did enjoy seeing how their relationship played out. Na-mi becomes increasingly more suspicious of what's happening to her and who's responsible, while Jun-yeong gets put in the hot seat and he has to come up with strategies to outwit people who are chasing after him. The cat and mouse game between them becomes more riveting at about the halfway mark when Na-mi's life starts to unravel. At that point, both characters become more desperate and more details about their personal lives become known, and it respectively made Na-mi and Jun-yeong more sympathetic and detestable as a result. However, there are moments building up to this that work well too. Most of what happens in the first half is slower in pacing, which allows for a more dark and moody atmosphere to foster, and this in turn brings about a consistently eerie feeling that follows Na-mi and Jun-yeong wherever they go, which completely fits the idea of a tech-oriented stalker being anywhere. The amount of creative cinematography in the movie caught my attention early on. It features a lot of great shots both in close-up and from afar that are layered with dark lighting to help draw in suspense. Even when subjects are more clearly visible, they're framed in such a way that conveys a sense of unease, which again fits with the hidden stalker vibe. Other times, the movie will feature clips of characters interacting with their cell phones in numerous everyday ways via hidden video from their cameras, which gave the movie a more grounded feel that helped draw me into the story and served to highlight just how far someone is willing to go to hurt someone. This being said, I definitely preferred the latter half of the movie over the first, because that's when the movie really felt like it took off and that a story was actually taking place, whereas beforehand there isn't much that resembles a plot outside of what happens with Na-mi's phone in the beginning. The movie attempts to get around this by balancing a subplot involving a police officer, who's revealed to be the father of a serial killer, who in turn Jun-yeong is eventually revealed to be. I like the idea of a dad chasing after his son who turns out to be a killer, but here it never really goes anywhere. The movie is either focused on Na-mi barely doing much other than living her life, or the cops repeatedly failing to stay on top of Jun-yeong. If it weren't for the villain's performance, the unique visual style, and the slow burn tension that permeates throughout, the story would have been a lot harder to pay attention to. But like I said earlier, the movie does make up for this with an intense second half that ramps up the stakes of the story. It still has its shortcomings, but it became a lot easier to stay invested by that point, and it's backed up by a creepy climax that serves as an epic standoff and conclusion for all the events leading up to it. The movie is far from being being original, as it's filled with a lot of cliches, but for some reason they didn't bother me as much as it seems to have for other critics. It does just enough to keep things fresh and exciting without becoming dull and boring. Again, more so for the second half, but I still found myself intrigued by its central concept. It really goes to show how ingrained technology is in our daily lives and how easy it is for certain people to take advantage of others for their own nefarious deeds. The paranoia and desperation that comes from this is portrayed well in this movie, and it serves as a cautionary tale for those to be more careful of their possessions, which is a good message for these modern times. Overall, Unlocked isn't the most innovative tech thriller, but it still remains an engaging and suspenseful story from beginning to end. If you like crime thrillers that center around technology and can tolerate a lack of originality, you would enjoy checking this out. The pacing and multiple plot threads can be distracting at times, but its slow burn tension, visual presentation, and fascinating villain make it worth watching. I can't deny that I'm a bit more cautious about where my phone is after seeing this, so for me, at the very least, it did unlock some food for thought. What did you think about this movie? Were you drawn in by its gritty and realistic presentation, or were you bothered by its numerous cliches and plot threads? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Unlocked. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the British dramatic thriller, The Strays. Bye bye!